All right, today we're jumping into a piece of ancient writing that people have been talking about for, well, centuries, the first chapter of the book of Romans. But here's the thing, we're not going to treat this like a sermon. Nope. Instead, drawing on the incredible analysis of scholar Dr. Craig Keener, we're going to break it down as a masterful piece of persuasion, an argument designed to lead its audience somewhere they absolutely did not see coming. So let's start with this question because it really frames everything we're about to look at. How do you actually build an argument that's so airtight it corners everyone listening? It sounds kind of impossible, right? Well, the text we're digging into uses a classic and frankly a brilliant strategy to do exactly that. You see, according to Dr. Keener's work, what we're reading here isn't just some random list of complaints. Oh no. It is a carefully, meticulously structured argument. It's basically a rhetorical trap laid with incredible precision. The author, Paul, is getting his audience to nod along, to agree with him, right before he completely pulls the rug out from under them. And what's fascinating, as Dr. Keener points out, is that this strategy isn't even new. It's a direct mirror of one used way back by the Hebrew prophet Amos. Just picture it. Amos is up there, calling out judgment on all of Israel's enemies, one by one. And the home crowd is loving it. They're cheering, yeah, get him! But then, Amos pivots. And he says, and now, judgment on you, Israel. You could hear a pin drop. The applause just stops cold. Keener argues Paul is running the exact same playbook. So, where does an elaborate argument like this even begin? What's the starting point? What's the root cause that, in the author's view, leads to all the other issues? Well, Keener shows us that the argument has a very specific launchpad. It's not just about people behaving badly out of nowhere. At its absolute core, the argument claims the fundamental problem is a willful turning away. The text basically says that evidence of a creator is all around us. I mean, you can see it in the natural world. But instead of acknowledging that, humanity actively suppresses that truth and chooses to worship created things instead. This single act is presented as the catalyst for literally everything else that follows. In this, right here, shows you the logic of the argument perfectly. It's this four-step downward spiral. Step 1, suppress the truth. This leads directly to step 2, idolatry. And as a consequence of that, the argument says God hands them over to their own desires, letting the natural consequences of their choices just play out. And that leads to the final step, a corrupted mind, where moral reasoning gets all twisted up. It's a chain reaction, one thing leading straight to the next. Okay, so the foundation is laid. Now it's time to set the bait. The author starts listing off these behaviors that his original audience, many of them Jewish, would have immediately pointed to as belonging to outsiders, what they called Gentile sins. This is the part designed to get them nodding, thinking, yes, exactly, those people are the problem. Now, a key example used here is same-sex behavior. And to really get why, Dr. Keener gives us some crucial historical context. See, in the broader Greco-Roman world, these practices were common, but they were viewed very differently than today. They were often tied to things like social status, like between masters and slaves, and not to a modern concept of orientation or identity. This stood in huge contrast to ancient Jewish culture, which made it the perfect example for Paul to use as something his audience would see as a distinctly other people kind of issue. And this quote from Dr. Keener is so important. He says he was addressing the behavior, not classes of people. The point here wasn't to condemn a specific group of people for all time. It was to use these actions, which were seen as typical non-Jewish behaviors, as a strategic part of a much larger argument. It was a move to get his audience on his side before the big reveal. So all of this has been building to the critical turning point. The bait has been laid out, the audience is agreeing, they're on board, and now the author is about to spring the trap. This is the gotcha moment, where the entire argument is about to pivot on a dime. So just when the audience is feeling most secure, most confident in their own moral standing, right when they're agreeing that, yeah, all those other people are really the problem, the argument shifts its focus completely. And bam, the argument suddenly pivots to this list: envy, strife, gossip, slander, arrogance, disobedience, boasting. I mean, wait a minute. Suddenly, these aren't sins the audience can just pin on others. These are things that are universally human. I mean, who hasn't felt a little envy or engaged in some gossip? This is the exact moment the trap springs shut. The author just implicated everybody in the room. So you have to ask, why? Why this whole elaborate setup? What was the ultimate point of this entire strategy? Well, according to Dr. Keener, the purpose was never just to condemn one particular group. It was all designed to lead everyone to a single, inescapable conclusion. And the main point is this. The whole argument is designed to completely dismantle any sense of moral superiority. By the end of it, nobody gets to stand on the high ground and point fingers. The playing field has been totally, completely leveled. This is it. This is the ultimate takeaway. The entire masterful argument is constructed to prove one thing, that all people, Jew and Gentile alike, are in the exact same boat. All have fallen short. All are in need of the same solution. It's a universal diagnosis for what the text presents as a universal human condition. And that just leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If an argument works this hard and this cleverly to prove that everyone is facing the exact same problem, what does that imply about the solution it's about to offer? It's a powerful question, and really, it sets the stage for everything that comes next.